Gurudeva Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tvameva Mata Sapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Tvameva 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 Sarvam Mama Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text? Mark, are you online?
Yeah, we're on page 105, the second shloka.
And I'm seeing funny on the screen. Is it just you and me online, Mark?
No, Mark Deming and Scott.
Oh, well, it's looking funny. I guess it doesn't matter. Okay.
Anyasmin ham buddhirabhishvangaha gyayate aneneti vyutpatya jnana sadhana mityartha manonashasyapi jnana sadhanatvam shruti smriti prasiddham tatastu tam pashyati nishkalam dhyayamanaha iti shrutihi adhyatma yogadhigamena devam matva dhiro harsha shokau jahati iti cha pratyagatma samadhi praptya devam gyatvetyartha. Identification of one's ego with another is called self-identification. The term jnana, knowledge, by deriving it in the sense, is known by this. Jnanyate anena means that which leads to knowledge. Dissolution of the mind also is acknowledged as a means of knowledge in the Shrutis and Smritis. Then alone he, in meditation, sees him who is without parts, Mundaka Upanishad, and also in the Katana Upanishad, the wise man, realizing God through the attainment of concentration on the self, leaves behind both joy and sorrow. From Katana Upanishad. The latter text, Adhyatma Yogadhigamena, means by knowing God through the attainment of concentration on one's essential self.
So again, here he's talking about this jnana abhyasa and its value, the practice of knowledge. The doubt is, well, this is just mind stuff. Why should I do this? And the idea is this, like the thorn used to remove a splinter, in itself is cast away. or Shankara will use the metaphor of the katakana powder. The metaphor Shankara uses, the ladies go down to the river during the monsoon flood to get water for the village, and they get the water, but it's got silt suspended in it from the monsoon. So they take coconut powder. In modern times, they use alum. And the alum then creates surface tension. It draws the silt, which then goes to the bottom, and then they're able to decant the pure water. So if you look at it literalistically, oh, there's dirt in the water. What am I going to do about it? Add more dirt. Well, that makes no sense. I have a problem with too many thoughts, the wrong kind of thoughts. What's the solution? Add more thoughts. Well, that makes no sense. But it's a particular kind of thought. The modern image is your washing machine. My clothes are dirty. I put them in the washing machine, and then what do? I add more dirt called detergent. Now listen carefully. The detergent removes the dirt, and both are washed away in the rinse cycle. So this jnana abhyasa, this practice of knowledge. And in this whole section, he's given us the two major practices. One is the effacement of the vasanas, our attachments to people, places, things, and conditions. And manonasha, the dissolution of the mind, bringing the mind to a still point. Listen carefully. What he's implying here is, what is it that holds the mind in place? What holds the mind in place is vasana. Some of the Raja yogis will develop intense concentration, and then through pranayama, they're able to bring the mind momentarily to a state of quiescence. But the experience is, I see nothing. I see blank. And if you huff and puff enough with pranayama, you might even hyperventilate and have a pseudo ecstasy. Why doesn't the mind disappear when I stop it through that kinds of concentration? Because we've misunderstood what holds the mind in place, which is vasana. So that's what we call a jada samadhi, an inert samadhi. They might feel good for a moment. A good nap will do the same thing. It does not free us. It is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that is considered liberation by the wise. That's how Shankara says it. So it's the two together. Intense renunciation of our attachments to the world. And again, listen carefully, the world itself is not problematic. Because the world is essentially neutral. I attribute evil, joy-giving and misery-producing qualities. That's what needs to be renounced. And then this renunciation of any personal sense of self. Practically speaking, we take on what we call Sakshi Bhava, the attitude or the feeling of the witness. Listen carefully. Truth is the self is always the witness. We just don't notice that it is. You don't become the witness. You just start paying attention. And we take 100% responsibility for our interior experience. If I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the defilement, the attachment, the craving, the control issue, the expectation, the identification. It's axiomatic. But ego says they done it to me. Nobody knows the trouble I see. Well, what about little children who are abused? Aren't they victims? Yes, they are. They do not yet have a developed mind. They've not been introduced to yoga. But if you're 30 years old and you're still reacting because of what happened to you as a 7-year-old, then you have the problem. The abuse is not taking place. As an adult, got to work through those issues and let them go. So if the klesha arises, oh, look at that, I see you for what you are. Jao. Word I've been using the past couple of days. We have a Hindi speaker. What's Jao mean?
Go.
Get out. Get out. So it has two meanings here. One, to the klesha, I see you for what you are. Jao. And then get out of the body. Jao. Jai. Jao. Personal sense of self arises. I see you for what you are. Ciao. What's the truth? I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. This world is Brahman. This is jnana abhyasa. This is not the practice for deeply afflicted minds. This is a practice that can only be done in a predominantly sattvic mind. If the mind is gross, we have other practices. Intense devotion, selfless service, karma yoga, etc. They do not of themselves lead to knowledge, but they move the mind from tamas through rajas until it's predominantly sattvic. Then we can do this jnana. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Yam vinidra jita shvasaha santushtaha sanyatendriyaha jyoti pashyanti Yunjanastasmai Vidyatmane Namaha. Mahabharate Shanti Rajadharma Iti Smriti. The Smriti thus: the yogis who have controlled their breath and the senses are satisfied and are asleep no more, and through meditation have the vision of that effulgence which is intelligence absolute. Salutation to that.
So here we're talking about the proper use of the Raja Yoga tradition. So Jnana Yoga, the path we follow is Vedantins, and Raja Yoga, the two paths meet for the well-instructed practitioner at the point of dharana, when we learn single pointedness of mind, essential for the jnana yogi, essential for the Raja yogi, and then dhyana, meditation. At the beginning, you may meditate on a form of the Lord, or you may meditate on your breath, or you may meditate on a mantra. Remember in Gita, Krishna says that japa, the repetition of a mantra, is the king of yoga. But in both cases, once the mind has thinned down, then Koham, who am I? And the samadhi of the jnanis is no different than the samadhi of the Rajas. First, we have what we call savikalpa samadhi. And that's where we stand at the doorway of the mind is to that auspicious moment, it slips to nirvikalpa samadhi. The personal sense of self is gone. Talking with a student some time ago who has been studying Vedanta, but he's also been going on these Vipassana retreats. And on the last one, he was on a 10-day retreat. He had this experience. And again, words fall short. And when it happens, it's frequently not like our preconceived idea of what's going to happen. What he said is, all I can say is myself, meaning the small self, it disappeared. And he was able to walk around and be present to the world, but there was no person there. It was so cool. There was just nothing there. It's real. It's available. Through intense meditation, discrimination, abhyasa vairagya cha. That's the essence. Now, Did he stay there? I don't know. I haven't asked him. But even if ego returns, he now has something real with which to work. He knows beyond the shadow of a doubt that the personal sense of self is not an entity, it's a mind state. Something there is. Next verse. Before we do, I just need to let you know this tradition is powerful. You go to other traditions and people have practiced for decades and still no knowledge of the self. But I can tell you the number of people who are students of Swamiji's who got this authentic transmission. People deep in their abidance in the self. And for example, when I first met Swamiji in 1975, you mentioned a text like Viveka Chudamani. Most of my friends who are in all sorts of Indian spiritual traditions had no idea it existed. Now, several with translations and commentaries on it. This is almost 50 years later. All right, next verse.
Tadevam tattvajnanadinam trayanam videha mukti jivan mukti vashad guna pradhana bhava vyavastha siddha. Thus, in this manner, the mutual primary and secondary importance of the knowledge of truth and the rest are determined according to the need of Videha Mukti and Jivan Mukti, i.e., for Jivan Mukti Manonasha and Vasana Kshaya are the principal means, and for Videha Mukti, knowledge is the principal means.
So to be liberated while here alive, we practice this manonasha, this destruction of the mind. Remember, what do we mean by the mind? We mean this personal sense of self. I'm a person, the world is separate from me, and struggle is necessary. The effacement of vasanas, elimination of those, this intense mind. It culminates in being liberated in the body. Then what happens after you die, even if you don't attain moksha this lifetime, the grosser part of the mind falls away, you go to Brahmaloka, etc. Is that true? Does that happen? I do not know. That's simply what the scriptures say. My way of interpreting is this: being Jivan Mukta and Videha Mukta, they're the same thing. For example, if it's a sunny day and you're walking down the sidewalk and you see your shadow, are you attached to your shadow? And if it's an overcast day and you walk down the sidewalk and you cannot see your shadow, Are you attached to your shadow? The first is Chaya Moksha. I'm liberated. I'm not attached to my shadow. Vichaya Moksha. I do not see my shadow. I'm liberated. The mark of the Jivan Mukta. They know they are from. I am not the body, whether it appears in my vision. Some of you may have read the Phaedo, which is the Platonic dialogue on the death of Socrates. Socrates was a realized soul. Plato, I'm not so sure about, but Socrates certainly was. And one of the things Socrates says is, what else is philosophy but the practice of dying? Philosophos, the love of wisdom. It's the same thing as we would say is jnana, wisdom, moksha, liberation. So what is it we do in meditation? I withdraw my identification, my attention from the body, from the prana, from the field, from what else is dying? But I withdraw my attention from the corpse, from the prana, from we practice. This is why Ram Dass would say, even dying is completely safe. Had a conversation with a young man who teaches theology at a Catholic high school. And one of the things they're doing is just kind of a survey of world religions. They're reading the Bhagavad Gita with no commentary. It's just an English translation. And I don't even know the translator. They're Westerners. But he came across the 11th verse in the second chapter and pushed back on it. It's wrong. It's not real. It's nihilistic. What does it say? Krishna is talking to Arjuna and says, you grieve for whom you should not grieve, though you speak words of wisdom. The wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. He can't accept it. He can't buy it. He thinks it's bad teaching. And I just said, this is just what the tradition says. This is the height of the teaching. This has meaning for those with a full understanding. It's not to be taken just face value. We don't numb out. We don't suppress grief or loss. The natural freedom from grieving is the result of wisdom. May not be available to us today. Well, isn't that nihilistic? He said, not at all. And I pointed into St. Francis, whom I think was also a realized soul. And the way he related to it, he saw the Lord everywhere. And he saw it in terms of filial connection. Brother, sun, sister, moon. I always like what he said about his body. He called it brother ass. Not ass meaning rear end, but ass meaning donkey. But his dying words were, welcome, Sister Death. No resistance. Big acceptance. Fully surrendered heart. Only possible to one who knows aham brahmas. No concern for the past, no worry for the future. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad, as the psalmist said. Or Ram Dass would say, be here now. Same thing. 500 BCE, they're saying the same thing. In the Jewish tradition. Next verse.
Nanu vividisha sanyasina sampadita nami tesham kim vidvat sanyasa durvaman nuvrittim matram kim va purapi sampadana prayatno apekshitaha nadyaha tattvajnanasyeva Sevanya Yorapyayanta Siddhatve Pradhanya Prayuktadara Bhava Prasangat Na Dvitiyaha Itarayoriva Jnanasyapi Prayatna Sapekshatve Satyupa Sarjanatva Prayukto Dasinya Bhava Prasanga. Here a doubt may arise that a Vividisha sannyasin, having accomplished these three means, when reaches the stage of Vidvat sannyas, is he required to endeavor afresh for their acquirement, or do they continue to exist? If they continue to survive, then like knowledge, the other two means being available without effort would not be regarded as principal. The other alternative is also untenable. If knowledge is subjected to fresh effort like the other two, then it will not be regarded as subordinate.
I'm not sure what he means by this. I think the doubt is if you don't attain self-realization and you're on the edge and you go to Brahmaloka, then do you have to do yoga in Brahmaloka in order to be realized? I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. Scripture says no. What I would recommend is leave that to God. Focus on but I think the deeper import of the subject that he's pointing at is this. Does the woman or the man of realization continue to meditate, continue to practice, continue to do sadhana? Well, let me ask you this question. Knowing that you have a human body, do you have to practice that? Do you? It's clear, obvious knowledge. So also when this personal sense of self has exploded, evaporated, gone. There's no practice necessary to maintain it. If you have a dream and you wake up, okay, for some very vivid dreams, first thing in the morning, my God, did that really happen or was it a dream? And then you figure it out. No, it was a dream. I'm fine. I'm here in my bed. You don't have to go through the rest of the day going, I'm not in the dream, I'm awake. I'm not in the dream, I'm awake. Dream's gone. Then why do we see Mahatmas, some of them in samadhi, chanting the name of the Lord? We have stories of Ramakrishna doing Devi Bhava, where he dressed up as the goddess and dance around and all this sort of stuff. The seeker, the mumukshu, is seen to be doing practices so that she can purify the mind and realize the self. The Jivan Mukta may also be seen to be doing spiritual practices. It does not add to their knowledge of the self. Anything that happens in it is just frankly an illusory mind state. Why do they do it? Because it's the highest form of worldly pleasure. They enjoy it. So Tejo Mayananda used to talk about the 3 R's. They're not reading, writing, and arithmetic. They are renounce, realize, and revel self-nature. That may be going ecstatic dancing. Understanding, this is just my form of meditation, for want of a better word. You may love to chant the name of the Lord. That's what Tejo likes to do. He has his little harmonium and he's singing away, It's the way he revels in the Lord. Others of us silent. Or you may be like King Janaka, deeply engaged in the world. Each person finds their way of revelry according to their prarabdha. No rules. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Nayam doshaha ज्ञानस्यानुवृत्तिमात्रमितरयोर न साध्यत्वमित्यङ्गीकारात् तथा हि विद्याधिकारी विविधः कृपो कृतोपास्तिश्चेति तत्रोपास्य साक्षात्कारपर्यन्तामुपास्तिं कृत्वा यदि ज्ञाने प्रवर्तेत तदा वासनाक्षय मनोनाशयोर्दृढतरत्वेन ज्ञानार्थत्वं विद्वत्सन्न्यास जीवनमुक्ति स्वत एव सिद्ध्यतः। तादृश एव शास्त्राभिमतो मुख्यो विद्याधिकारी ततस्तं प्रति शास्त्रेषु सहोपन्यासात् स्वरूपेण विविक्तावपि विद्वत्सन्न्यास विविधीशसन्न्यासौ संकीर्णविव प्रतिभासेते। इदानीन्तनास्तु प्रायेण कृतोपास्तय एवोत्सुक्यमात्रत्सहसा विद्यायां प्रवर्तन्ते। वासनाक्षय मनोनाशौ च तात्कालिकौ समादयन्ति। तावता श्रवण मनन निधिध्यासनानि निष्पाद्यन्ते। तैश्च दृढाभ्यासैर्ज्ञानसंशय विपर्ययनिरासात् तत्त्वज्ञानं सम्यगुदेति। उदितस्य ज्ञानस्य बाधकप्रमाणाभावान्निवृत्ताय अविद्यायाः पुनरुक्तिकारणाभावाच्च नास्ति तस्य शैथिल्यम्। वासनाक्षय मनोनाशौ तु दृढाभ्यासभावाद् भोगप्रदेन प्रारब्धेन तदाबाध्यमानत्वाच्च सवातप्रदेशदीपवत्साहसा निवर्तेते। तथा च Vasishtha. Reply: there is no harm. We admit that the knowledge will continue to exist, and the other two are to be strived for afresh. For instance, the student entitled to knowledge is of two kinds. one who has undergone the discipline of worship, and the other who has yet not done so. If one has performed worship till he has had the vision of his ideal, and then attempts at knowledge, his dissolution of the mind and effacement of the latent impressions will be stronger, i.e., of superior strength, due to which his Vidvat Sannyas and Jivan Mukti will happen, of their own accord, immediately after knowledge. The scriptures recognize him to be the best student fit for knowledge. For such students, Vidvat Sannyas and Vividisha Sannyas, although distinctly different, have been mentioned together in the scriptures, hence they appear to be mixed up. But most modern students, even with no previous practice of meditation, just out of curiosity, suddenly attempt to attain enlightenment. They accomplish effacement of latent impressions and the dissolutions of the mind for the time being, and with that also accomplish study, reflection, and meditation of Vedanta by repeated and vigorous practice, which in turn leads to the destruction of ignorance, doubt, and opposite ideas, and consequently the knowledge of truth arises perfectly. In the absence of any counteracting cause of the knowledge, and also in the absence of any cause to make the destroyed ignorance reappear, the knowledge stays firmly settled.
Fascinating.
Oh, sorry, one more.
Okay.
But in the absence of rigorous practice, and being influenced from time to time by the fructifying operative deed, prarabdha karma, the manonasha and vasanakshaya are extinguished even as the lamp by a blowing wind. Vashishta also said thus. That was it.
So let's look at actually what the Sanskrit has said here in these two terms. Vasana chaya. Chaya is a term which I will frequently use. We find it in the Mandukya Upanishad Karika. And Swamiji used to call it the vomiting up of the unconscious tendencies. I prefer to use the language, it's the unloading of the unconscious. So, in long and continuous meditation, all that's unconscious is made conscious. All the fears, all the lust, all the past regrets, all the worries for the future, everything arises. This is the great value of meditation retreats, long and continuous meditation. Just don't do something silly. So what is it that's unloading? Now, you did these Goenka once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they use the word sankara. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Sankara is simply the Pali for sanskara, which is pretty much the same as vasana. It's the impressions, unloading. So, here he says, if you do intense worship, what do we do during worship? We unload the mind more slowly, giving everything to the Lord. My heartache, I give my lust, I give my disappointment, I give my anger, I give my frustration, my fear. It's funny, Swamiji tells a story. He was at the ashram in Mumbai, and someone wanted to do Pada Puja, and they had all these flowers. And he says, So you're going to give me flowers from my own garden? Truth is, everything is the Lord's. About the only thing we could really say belongs to us is my kleshas. That's about it. That's really all I can offer to the Lord. It's the ghee, the flowers, the water, they belong to Him. Silliness. But here he's saying, by modern times, he's talking about the 1300s, which I think is very interesting. But meaning in that ashram situation where people come in and they are not coming in after years and years and years of doing ritual. Even more so today. If we have intense momokshutva, have that confined environment, at least for a while, your knowledge is steady. What he implies here, if you haven't purified the equipment through years of practice and devotion, prarabdha may arise, meaning you may function in the world and you get annoyed or you get triggered or something like that. Where did that come from? Undigested impressions. You have still vasana arising. Okay? If your knowledge is authentic and it's deep, even though it arises, you'll bring it out. The poet Hafiz says, it's like dust devils in the desert. If you've ever been out in the dry desert, there's a wind. Sometimes you see these little tiny cyclones that those are our little surface upsets that can happen. And this manonasha is the other term, destruction of the mind. Sounds kind of scary. It doesn't mean some kind of insensibility or enfeeblement. The mind is rooted only in three ideas. I think I'm a person. I think the phenomenal world is real in some way. And I have made something out there a goal. And then kartavya, struggle toward that goal. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more better, different. Right here, right now is not enough. We have become a moron. I need more. What do you do to do more? I become a moron. Flow of thought is not problematic. The perception of the phenomenal world is not problematic. Just those three ideas. So again, Vidyaranya is making notions about what happens perhaps after death. When I know for sure, I do not know. I take the viewpoint, be liberated here, now, in this very body. All right, next verse.
पूर्वेभ्यस्तु प्रयत्नेभ्यो विषमोऽयं हि समतः दुःसाध्यो वासनात्यागः सुमेरुन्मूलनादपि. Vasishtha also said thus: among the efforts earlier mentioned, this one is considered to be far more difficult. Giving up of desires is a hard task, even harder than uprooting the Sumeru mountain.
And he says vasana tyagaha. So it's not so much the uprooting of desire, it's the uprooting of these impressions. It's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And it's only done through insight. That's why these are called Vipassana retreats. Vipassana is the Pali of the Sanskrit Vipashyana. Drish pashyati is to see. Vipashyana is insight, real understanding. I give up an attachment when I clearly see what is the cause of my suffering. In my delusion, I think I'm suffering because I'm not getting what I want. People aren't behaving the way they should. Unmet expectation. Circumstances not to my liking. All various forms of karma. And ego says play whack-a-mole with the world. But when I can see that it's the karma itself that is the essence of the dukkha, not separate, they are the same thing. Then I develop the desire to be free from the tyranny of an addictive relationship with the world. Desire to be free from desire. This is mature Vairagya. It only comes inside. If it's done out of some moral position, or trying to be a goody-goody, or show your neighbors what a pure yogi you are, it won't last. Phony renunciation won't work. I've had an unfortunate love affair. I'm giving up sex and relationship. No, you're just bruised. And desire will arise again. Krishna says the person who gets rid of the objects of desire, it allows the desire to remain behind. But their desire leaves them on seeing the supreme existence. So this is vasana tyaga, the abandonment of these proclivities. In meditation retreat, you're sitting there. What do you do when desire, craving, aversion arises in the mind? You've been on one. What do?
You watch it.
And what happens?
It dissipates.
Yep. And through direct experience, we see that impulse does not require action. we restrain the organs of action, the karmendriyas, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. Just don't do something. Sit there. And we get vasana chaya. They arise out of the unconscious. Then we get vasana yaga. The other way, the more painful way. I don't want to be a sannyasi, I want to be a tantrika. Swamiji used to say, go after the world. And he would laugh diabolically. Say, let it kick you in the teeth. Let it drop you again and again. The only way to kill the ego. Meaning, when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, when I finally see how mechanical and boring my upsets are. I mean, I say this all the time. Who got upset this week? Oh, it was unique. I've never had this feeling before. It's the same damn issue, isn't it? Aren't you tired of it? But he won't behave. And how successful have you been at controlling him? Why don't you let it go? Vasana, Tyaga, abandon. Now, just like a person in AA who's finally getting free from alcohol, and they see someone come in who's trying to recover from heroin addiction, you don't have to say, oh, gee, I never tried heroin. I think I'm going to go out and try heroin. You can go, no, I'm not going to go there. Bad enough just giving up the booze. I don't need to suffer. So also, a sannyasi, when she finally sees what the problem is, attachment, craving, aversion, fear. Can you take the whole lump of the mind? Ciao. Get up. I quit believing you. Only done through mature insight. Possible. Okay, we'll quit here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hare